Hey everyone, welcome to Realization Hub. My name is Michelle Horizao-Dinu, and I'm an intuitive reader, energy healer, and channeler who loves to bridge the gap between the unseen world of spirit, energy, consciousness, and intuition so that it can apply to your everyday human experience. Today's video is an energy update for March 2022. Wow, I'm going to be sharing the energy dynamics for mass consciousness, those of you going through your awakening, and those of you going through your embodied enlightenment. I do want to make a little disclaimer here. You are the source of your own answers, your own information, and your own wisdom. You are capable of tapping into your own intuition and finding your own truth, your own answers, and how to guide yourself. So if there's something in this video that doesn't resonate with you, you can just let it go. Also, I want to give a little trigger warning for this video because I will be talking about the real energy dynamics that I'm seeing on the planet at this time. It is an intense time of change for the planet. If you're not open to hearing about those things, this might not be the video for you. So, with that said, if you do love these videos, please subscribe to my channel and like this video because it really helps me out a lot. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's talk about mass consciousness in March 2022. One of the things I was seeing about mass consciousness is that this Earth is going into yet another big energetic expansion. The last time I saw it go into this level of expansion was right when the pandemic started. So you can remember, if you look back, a couple years ago, where like suddenly everything started to change and, businesses closed down and the economy started, getting all wacky. Travel became wacky. Everything was kind of chaotic and crazy. People were dying. People were getting sick. It was really disruptive, right? And it impacted everyone. And that's the key to this message today, is that this growth period is impacting everyone on the planet. And it started around February 19th, 20th is when I started to see the energetic growth period starting. Just about around that time where things heated up between Russia and Ukraine. I'm recording this video just as that war is starting, and this week alone has been, filled with levels of fear, anxiety, stress, overwhelm, and even agitation in the air for mass consciousness. And this is just the beginning, because March looks like a pretty big month where this kind of growth period on the planet really starts to heat up and get kind of intense, to the point of where I see a pretty massive energetic storm kind of going through mass consciousness and really triggering a lot of energy dynamics within people so that it can be released. When I started to feel into what was happening on the planet and this level of growth that was happening, it looks like it's instigated by this war that's kind of happening over in Europe. But without going into any kind of political or social details, I was just kind of looking at the energy, and it really reminded me of awakening. Kind of like, I guess I'll kind of backtrack and say that in awakening, it's very common for our energy during awakening to deconstruct. It's like living in a really old house. This is kind of the metaphor I have for it. It's like living in a really old house where everything's broken down, nothing's really working, everything's outdated. The whole thing needs to be torn down, And if you think about planet Earth, and you look at the systems that are on planet Earth, our financial systems, all the systems on Earth, I'm not going to go through them, but there's a lot that makes this world go round, and it's kind of like being in that old house that nothing's really working. Everything's outdated. It's frustrating. It's saddening. It's restrictive. It's limited. It's kind of bothering a lot of people. There's a lot of people on this planet that do want change because that old system, the old systems on the planet are just no longer working for them or a lot of people. So in awakening, your wisdom starts to kick in. Your personal wisdom will start to kick in, and things will start to break down in your energy. Things start to collapse and break down, and it's kind of like your wisdom coming into that house with a sledgehammer and knocking out the kitchen and knocking down the walls and tearing up the roof and pulling out the plumbing and, just bulldozing the whole house down. Okay. And that's because you have to get rid of the old in order to create that space for the new. All right. And so when I was tuning into this growth period happening on the planet, it was a lot like that. It seemed very destructive in a natural way, where things start to collapse in very big ways. Maybe big systems start to collapse. Again, I'm not looking at the specifics of what exactly is going to collapse. I just tuned into a very epic feeling of everything kind of collapsing all at once. And that's the energy. So how that looks on a physical level out in day-to-day life probably will look like a lot of disruptions, where suddenly, like something's not working, something is gone, something is missing. Similar to the pandemic. It's like one day you were working and everything was normal, and the next day you were stuck at home, you couldn't go to work, you didn't have a job, and businesses were closing and you didn't know what was going on, right? And there was a lot of fear in the air when that happened. Very similar to what's happening or starting, I would say it's kind of starting in March, where a lot of things start getting disrupted all of a sudden. Not just in March, but this looks like it could, progress, until it's done its job, which is, accelerating that destructive process or that deconstruction process in the energy of the planet. So this kind of experience, especially if you've been through awakening, and you've gone beyond awakening, can be very scary for those that don't know what's going on. I mean, if you think about yourself sitting in a house that's being bulldozed or that's collapsing on you, it can feel really overwhelming. It can feel scary. All right, so a lot of people on the planet might be feeling scared because things are getting disruptive and big things might be collapsing energetically. However, it's just natural. It's a natural part of the process. And it's going to be okay, because if you think about like the long-term perspective on what's happening on the planet, it is that this has to fall apart so that this new energy can start to sprout and start to create new systems and start to birth and change into a more wiser system for the planet, something that works for us now, something that's updated, something that's more suitable for us in this present moment. And so, this is kind of the epic feeling I got, when I tuned into this growth period starting on the planet right now. It almost made me feel like the pandemic was just a warm-up, just dipping our toes into the apocalyptic nature of this time. And the real deal is actually going to be starting this year, where we start to really see some things collapsing. Now, this is just like a potential that I picked up on, a very big potential that I picked up on. And so this can really change a lot depending on the consciousness on the planet and how it comes about. There's always potential for suffering, and there's potential for destruction, and there's potential for lots of disruption. There's also potential for, the disruption to be resolved in easy ways, to come out of suffering, to have more ease, to have more grace through this, to really become empowered through this, to tap into our truth, at this time on the planet, to tap into our wisdom, to tap into, our sovereignty as individuals. So, yeah, big stuff's happening. Big stuff's happening. So, in particular, when I was looking at this kind of big energetic storm starting to go through mass consciousness, I was noticing that there's a lot of energy dynamics coming up to the surface around like domination and authority and control and like power and manipulation. Basically, like really abusive dynamics are kind of coming up to the surface. And what I noticed about it is it's coming up to the surface to release. There's so many layers to it, but one layer I was picking up on is that these are the energies that would cap how bright this planet could be, how conscious this planet could be, how aware this planet could be, And these are the energy dynamics that when they were released, from mass consciousness or the people on the planet, there's no cap on how bright it can be. And that means there's an unlimited amount of potentials that can happen, really good potentials, really bright potentials filled with awareness and filled with wisdom, very integrated potentials. And so this is a, kind of a much needed storm in a way to help clear the air and get rid of some of these, really dominating, abusive, dynamics that we're holding in the energy of the planet so that, we can actually get brighter and brighter and brighter and really change this planet in a beautiful way. So you might notice, if you get kind of pulled into this energetic storm, you might notice your own energy dynamics coming up to the surface, where maybe you've been dominated, controlled, manipulated, suppressed, where you've given your power away to other people, things of that nature. The good news is that growth periods, they're temporary. It's not going to be like this forever, but it is a temporary deep cleanse happening on the planet that helps it get it to another level. If you've ever had an experience of coming out of an abusive situation or an abusive relationship and you recover from that, you actually recover from it, chances are you're more connected with yourself. You are more in your truth. You are more embodied. You are less codependent. You are more sovereign. All right. And that is kind of what's happening on the planet right now. These are growth periods that are cleansing and affecting everyone. So everyone can come more into connection with themselves, their truth, their sovereignty, their freedom, their joy, their wisdom, and things of that nature. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about awakening, because, this is like a global awakening going on. And awakening is known for those cycles of the dark nights of the soul, where you feel completely alone, separated, scared, overwhelmed. It can feel very harsh to be in. And there's those cycles of just deconstruction where things could be falling apart in your life, like relationships and your health and your job and your career and your passions and, things like that. When you look at how that happened to you on a personal level and you apply that to what's happening on the earth, I just want you to consider how long of a journey that was for you to go through your awakening. For some people, it was a quick 5 years. For other people, it was more like 10 or 20 years. And the thing is that there is no black or white answer for how long this period of awakening is going to happen on the planet. It could take, 5 years, it could take 20 years. And that's why it's so important, because I really feel that on this planet, we want fast change. A lot of people want fast change, but we have to be able to have that fast change. And these energetic storms that are kicking up might be disruptive, they might be chaotic, they might trigger us, but they're there to clear us out energetically so that we can have the change that we want. And the more, brighter this planet gets, the faster that change is going to happen. Maybe the more disruptions are going to happen too, but it will have, it will help have faster change. And that seems to be kind of brewing for the earth, where people are wanting faster change. First thing I want to say is that, some people have already reported that they're feeling this mass consciousness kind of growth period. They're feeling the fear and the anxiety or the stress in the air. Some people are feeling it in their head. Some people are feeling it in their chest or their back. Everyone has unique energy dynamics, so you might not be the same as someone else and how they feel it, but everyone seems to be kind of feeling it a little bit here and there. All right, so some advice I have to give about how to deal with this energetically is one is that when you're in a really big growth period, whether it's just you individually in a big growth period or the planet is in a big growth period, it's so important to keep things simple. A lot of times we can have stacks of self-help books and lots of different spiritual practices and ceremonies and rituals and disciplines, and we have a complex diet, and we have, all these, modalities and services we tap into to, really bring us into balance and support ourselves. And life can get kind of complicated that way. When you enter into a very big growth period, sometimes all you can do is wake up and breathe. Sometimes all you can do is go for a walk. Sometimes all you can do is drink a glass of water. Sometimes all you can do is sit down and do a 3-minute meditation, okay? So I want you to think about what it was like when the pandemic started and maybe how difficult it was to sit down and take care of yourself because maybe you were so triggered by the news and you couldn't stop watching the news or reading the news or talking to your friends or just feeling overwhelmed or whatever it was. That's a very good reflection of what this type of growth period might, turn into on the planet, where suddenly it just feels very intense and it's hard to focus and it's hard to take care of yourself. So this is where it's so important to keep things simple. What are your top 3 things that you can do for yourself to really help you manage your energy? Maybe it's just drinking a lot of water. Maybe it's just getting extra sleep. Maybe it's just turning off the news for a whole day. Maybe it's just walking in nature. But, point is, keep it simple. Another thing I want to say is that if you are sensitive to energy, this is a very good time to learn how to manage your energy because, things are going to get intense energetically on the planet. And if you're uncomfortable, if you feel triggered, if you feel like you're off balance, if you feel like you can't function, this is the time to learn how to manage your energy because the planet is going through some big changes. So highly recommend that. If you need support with that, I teach people how to manage their energy. I've got a lot of energetic tools to help you release energy, replenish, have clean interactions with other people, go beyond your limitations, get into your own personal flow, learn how to be in your certainty, learn how to trust yourself, learn how to heal from energy leakages, learn how to protect yourself energetically. There's all kinds of things you can learn and become fluent with when it comes to your own energy dynamics. And if you need help with that, just book a session with me. I do personal sessions and I do group sessions, and I'm happy to teach you one-on-one how to manage your own energy. Another thing I recommend is keeping it light. It's going to be so seductive to get scared, to get stressed, to get overwhelmed. And this is when you want to remind yourself that this is natural, what's happening on the planet. It's natural when it happens to us individually to go through an awakening and to grow and evolve and become embodied. And it is natural for the planet to go through that as well. And it's going to be okay. And you might as well laugh at it. You might as well make a joke. You might as well watch funny movies. You might as well try to smile at this as it happens and just realize what's really happening energetically behind the scenes. It might look scary on the surface, but behind the energy, it's a really beautiful, necessary growth that the planet has to go through. Another tip I have for you is turn off the news. If the news starts to get crazy, it starts to get triggering, turn it off. Stop watching the TV, stop getting on social media, take a break. Because a lot of times you can get sucked into that mass consciousness storm just by watching the news, just by reading the news, just by being on social media. Okay, it's kind of like if there's a tornado outside somewhere in your city, you wouldn't leave your house and go drive into the tornado unless you were a storm chaser, right? Most people stay in their house and they hunker down and they don't leave it. They don't go towards the storm. All right, so if you are sensitive to energy, maybe consider taking breaks from the internet, from the news, from the TV, from social media, especially if you start to feel yourself getting triggered or going into fear or overwhelm or stress. And just remember that growth is temporary. This planet will eventually come out of a pandemic. It will eventually come out of all this disruption. It will eventually smooth out. We will eventually start to see the new stuff coming into the picture, coming into our lives, and we will start to see a beautiful, newness happening on the planet. So keep that in mind. Maybe right now it's uncomfortable, but it's worth it. So, put things into perspective when things start to feel overwhelming. I'm going to go ahead and pull some cards for mass consciousness and see if there's any other information about March. All right, we have these two cards. I had Queen of Cups come out upright. I also had Two of Wands come out reversed. So what I'm feeling about this card and what I've been feeling recently, like in February 2022, I was feeling this like almost decision happening on a mass conscious level for the feminine energy to kind of take their power back. And I feel like this is the feminine energy in March, for mass consciousness. It feels like it's navigating things more intuitively. If you think about what it was like when the pandemic started, there was information coming in all directions and some of it contradicted each other and it was so hard to navigate. And one way that may have served you or other people was that it forced you to go within. It forced you to go within and tap into your own information, your own intuition, your own wisdom to help guide you through that experience. This is a similar quality I see for mass consciousness. I see that all of these disruptions happening on the planet are a beautiful way to bring this forward, to bring this feminine energy forward of intuition. And in this picture, you can kind of see it's almost like she's bringing this intuition down into her hands, down into her creatorship, down into the world. She's really tapped into something. So I see this potential, amongst this growth period for mass consciousness to start having more more interactions with their intuition, more interactions with something that's greater than them. And I do sense this fast energy in this card. It's not really typical of this card to have that fast energy, but I do see the energy of like a snail kind of like walking across, and then pew, like something really fast happens. And so I kind of see like this paradox, you know, where like something might be progressing very slowly and at the same time it's happening really fast. Overall, I see, you know, mass consciousness, you know, showing up like this in the disruption. Like having this capacity for strong intuition, for strong spiritual connection, for emotional maturity, for being tapped into their feelings, for letting their intuition guide them. So, you know, I think this is a progression here of the feminine energy kind of starting to rebalance. You know, it's almost like that masculine energy is that snail that was really linear and just goes, you know, directly in a line, and it's just very slow, you know, whereas the feminine energy and intuition can get mass consciousness from here to here really fast. So I just continue to see one layer of the growth period happening on the planet is kind of like a rebalancing between masculine and feminine energy. And I do see where the intuition that comes out in feminine energy can get us from here to here really fast. So in this card, you can see this person's kind of like contemplating, they're looking out the window. It kind of looks like kind of a chill vibe here. But, you know, they've got plans. They got plans to go on a road trip. They want to travel the world. You know, they're looking out this window of opportunity. But this was reversed. You know, and it's almost like in this card, I get that feeling that whatever change or horizon that you're stepping into seems to be created and seems to be planned out and seems to be coming through ideas. But when this card is reversed, I almost see that like Indiana Jones scene from that movie where like he's got this big stone ball behind him, like rolling towards him, and he has to run out of the cave or run out of the whatever he's in to get out, you know, so he's kind of like pushed out. This is kind of what I see in this card, where, you know, you may have, mass consciousness may have an idea of where it wants to go, of like this horizon that it wants to move towards, but it's not necessarily, they're not necessarily going out there with that like, I'm gonna start doing this, I'm gonna start making this happen. It's kind of, they're getting forced into it. They're just being kind of pushed into it. It might be a little bit scary or unexpected. Yeah, you know, I really feel like with this reversed, it's talking about like that feeling of like when you're scared to take your next step, or when you're having a hard time making a decision. And maybe you're even procrastinating on something, you know, when it's reversed. And this has been, you know, the planet, you know, we're looking at mass consciousness. So this is where I see like something is putting on the pressure in mass consciousness to make a decision about things, about the trajectory of the planets. And it looks like mass consciousness is going to be approaching that change or approaching that new trajectory from intuition and connection versus versus like a masculine energy or stable energy. Intuition can be so spontaneous and emotions can be so spontaneous. And I really do feel that, it's like when that feminine energy starts to kind of take its power back on the planet and rise again and rebalance again on the planet, you might notice the fluidity of that and the flow of that, or the instability of that, the spontaneousness of that, where, emotions can rise spontaneously, intuition can rise spontaneously, and things can happen so much faster because it's intuitive and you're not, approaching things with the mind in this linear, structured fashion. So I do see the hesitation that's happening on the planet is kind of being, a lot of pressure is kind of building to kind of force the planet into making decisions, and it seems to be coming from that intuition. Another card I pulled was a love card, number 6. So a lot of this disruption happening on the planet is going to bring a lot of people together. Like, this is a very loving card. Just think of like a very intuitive woman who's, very connected. She's very nurturing, super nurturing. This is what I see here. So one of the beautiful things, I guess we're talking about some of the beautiful things. I've already shed some light on the disruption that's happening on the planet. I feel like what I'm pulling out is some of the beautiful things that are happening in this growth period. And that's this love, more people coming together to support each other, more people coming together to nurture each other, more people, stepping in and connecting and doing what's needed for, everyone to be taken care of. I see an image of like a walnut seed sprouting. So this looks like it's brand new, it's fresh, like this love vibration that's coming in on the planet in March. But it's like a walnut seed. A walnut tree turns into something really big over time. So you see, this is just the beginning, and that it will keep growing and become very strong and very big and very wise in the love that is born on the planet, during this growth period. The Mentor is a card I pull for mass consciousness. You can see this owl like flying through the dark, and there's like this kind of starry, fiery sky that it's flying from. And owls have lots of wisdom. So, again, I really see that even though there's this disruption happening on the planet, people are going to be showing up in kind and nurturing ways, and intuitive ways, and connected ways. People are going to show up with their wisdom. People are going to have be showing up with love. Even though, and then, this pressure building in this growth period seems to be forcing mass consciousness into making a decision, or choosing a path, or going a certain direction. So again, this is the beauty about growth periods. They can be so uncomfortable, and they can be so triggering, and they can be very disruptive sometimes. But they also are so needed and so beautiful. It is our wisdom, kind of giving us the love that we need on this planet. And this starts with you. It starts with loving yourself, connecting with your own intuition, nurturing yourself, letting your own wisdom guide you. And, starting to take a look at your future and really making a choice about what you want to do and the journey you're on and how you want to proceed on that journey, and start putting it into motion. All right. So that is my little update for mass consciousness. Let's go ahead and get started with those of you in your awakening. Hello to those of you going through your awakening. When I tap into you in March, I see this beautiful opening around your knowingness. And it seems like you're allowing yourself to go through some very fast, energetic changes in your knowingness, where your information is starting to kind of circulate really quickly in your knowingness. And what it's doing is it seems to be illuminating a lot of different potentials for you. You know, a lot of people think that their future is set in stone or they have a destiny, but really you create your future. You create those potentials, and it seems like you opening up to your knowingness and you allowing your spiritual information to circulate faster and have access to that is really starting to change your own personal potentials. So I really feel this feeling for you that, you know, now is the time to start to consider what you want in your long-term future. What is a desire that you want or a goal that you have for the long-term future? Because I see kind of this big journey ahead of you. And you get to decide how you get there. You know, there might be tendencies to want that immediate gratification or for your life to get better right now. But really what I see you doing spiritually is going into a lot of growth around how you commit to your own, desires, your own goals, and how you take that long journey to get there. Kind of like a road trip. You know, the whole point of a road trip is not to get to your destination. It's to enjoy the journey. And sometimes that journey towards what you really want and what you really desire can be so juicy and so filled with adventure and excitement and joy, you know. So you really start to feel that for you in November, where you're bringing a lot of awareness to your knowingness. You're starting to illuminate a lot of different potentials for you. And although you might have a tendency to want everything to get better now, I really do see you tapping into some wisdom about how you can commit to things now, so that you enjoy your journey as you get to your desired outcome. Another thing I want to say is that you have all the wisdom you need to get you through this growth period. That's happening on the planet, and that's happening for you personally. You know, you seem like you have a lot of wisdom to pull from, like you're an older soul, you know. I did notice that maybe you had a tendency when things start to get disruptive on a planet to really reach out to other people and try to help them and try to save them and try to save the planet and, you know, try to fix everything, you know, try to fix all the problems. And this is just where I want to remind you that, you know, you want to put on your oxygen mask first. Before you help someone else with their oxygen mask. Because as a healer, as a friend, as a lover, as a partner, as someone that collaborates with lots of people, I know, and I know a lot of other people out there know, that if you don't take care of yourself first, you're going to be useless to everyone else around you. You're not going to be able to help everyone else around you. Your cup has to be full for you to help other people around you. And so I do see a tendency for you to neglect yourself or forget about yourself and try to help everyone else and save everything else. But just remember that when you're going through a big growth period in your life, where you're initiating a big journey or committing to a big journey, or just kicking off something that you really desire for your long-term future, that it's so important to take care of yourself along the way. Every step of the way, you take care of yourself. And I got this really funny image of you. Takes me back. I watch a lot of Sex and the City. I don't know. I just love the actresses on that show. But I don't know if you've seen that episode where like they go, Carrie and Charlotte and Miranda and Samantha, they go to LA and they go to the Playboy Mansion. And Samantha has like a fake purse. a fake, high-end label purse, and then she gets it mixed up with another woman who has like the real purse, made by the real designer. The whole point of that image was it's kind of a funny way of showing me that, up until now, you've been carrying like a fake sense of yourself. It looks shiny, it looks glittery, it looks amazing, it looks like the real deal, but it's not. And this reminds me of where, like, maybe you've collected information from the internet, you've read all the books, and you've done you've got all these, spiritual practices, or just all these different things. But now, in this growth period that you're coming to, you're not going to be doing that on a very surface level anymore, in a cheap or fake way anymore spiritually. You're stepping into the real deal, the real practice of being here and being present, and like embodying yourself, and taking your wisdom and applying it to your everyday life. So I feel like in this growth period, it helps you go from like kind of a fake version of yourself that might be like very attractive and sparkly and give off the impression that you have, give off the impression about something, but that you're really, got this opportunity to step into this real version of you that is just, high end, like, where your self-worth is very grounded in your truth, things like that. So some of the tips I have for you this month is just to breathe. You may have a tendency to feel the fear going on with mass consciousness, and you might mistake that for your own fear. You might just not understand why you're feeling so triggered or so reactive, or just scared all the time. And this is a moment where you can just stop, just stop through your day and just take a deep breath in, and maybe take a few deep breaths in. Sometimes when you take 3 long breaths in or 6 long breaths in, it's enough to just kind of reset and come back to you. Okay. So when you notice yourself getting kind of in that fear state, if you do, or overwhelm, or stress, or whatever it might be, remember to stop and just breathe, because what you just did there was you kind of matched the energy outside of you, and you need to just go back within you. Okay. A little tip I like to give away when I'm talking to someone who's dealing with lots of fear is to choose to be safe. Just sit with yourself, breathe, and actually make the choice that you choose to be safe. Whether you're in a disruptive situation, a dangerous situation, you do create your experience. You create it. You've got the power, and you can start trusting yourself. And even if you're engaged with scary people, or, trauma, or things happening around you, you can still choose to be safe, and you can still create that safe space just for you. Another tip I have for those of you going through awakening is to consider, what do I need to do so that my body can relax? What do I need to do right now in my life so that I can just trust that I'm going to be okay, even if the planet is going crazy right now, even if it's going through disruptions, or things are collapsing, or things stop working. What do you need to do to feel safe, to feel like you can relax? I'm going to give you some examples. Like for me, I get freaked out if I don't have savings. So I prefer to have a big chunk of money in savings that I don't touch, and it's an emergency fund only. So it's there for if something happens in my health, if I suddenly lose a job, if I have an emergency that I have to pay for, I have a chunk of money in the bank that I can rely on, and that helps me relax. It's like, oh, it's okay if this bad thing happens because I have that money. It's okay if that bad thing happens because I have this money. Some people have different ways of doing that for themselves. Some people feel like they can relax when they have emergency water, emergency food, an emergency kit, an emergency survival backpack. Sometimes that's what it takes for us to calm down our human part of ourselves that is in survival mode, that's a little freaked out about what's happening in the world, just so that we can relax and go back into connecting with our knowingness and connecting with ourselves. Because it's really hard to connect and let your intuition guide you when you are freaking out and when you're in survival mode. So you might ask yourself that question, like, what would I need to do to feel safe right now? I'm not saying that something bad's going to happen to you. I'm just saying that world events could be triggering enough for you to feel unsafe. And you can create a situation in your life where no matter what happens, you're going to be okay because you have extra food or extra water or, a generator or whatever you might need to survive, something disruptive that might happen. So I want to pull some cards to see if there's any other information for you in the month of March 2022. I was seeing that even though the Earth is going into a really big growth period again with mass consciousness, there are some very beautiful things coming out of that. Immediately, this card pulled out, this card fell out. It's a judgment card. It's a beautiful image of like this woman's spirit is just like flying out of her, calling her towards something. This is a card for awakening. This card can symbolize awakening. It can symbolize a calling that's happening in your life. And that's really what I was feeling for you. Like, I feel that there's some type of calling or initiation that's happening for you, or the beginning of like a long-term journey that's happening for you. There's like something, I see this image of you like in the bowling alley, and there's like, all the pins out in front of you, and you throw the ball and it knocks down one pin on the side. And then you throw the ball again and it knocks down the other pin on the other side. And then you throw the ball one more time and you get like this, you knock all the pins down. So I just see that maybe there's been something that you've tried a couple times and maybe you haven't had good luck with it, or maybe you haven't really nailed it. But I see in March, where like something starts to shift for you, something changes where like what you start going for starts to really happen. You start to really manifest it. You start to create it, I see like that creative juice coming in for you. And, it's like a calling, something's calling you. It's there to say like, hey, it's time. Now's the time for you to do this. It's like the real thing. Maybe you've been kind of on the side, kind of preparing for stuff, kind of thinking of things, kind of doing things. But now in March, it's kind of like, it's time to do it. It's, whatever it is, it's calling me really loudly, and, it's starting to work. I'm starting to see things change for me, so I do see kind of the positive side of this card where things like work out for you, that type of growth period where the potentials of your future are changing in a good way, And this is because you're coming into more connection with yourself. You're letting your kind of spirit guide you, your wisdom guide you. There's definitely a calling that's guiding you. And I just want to read a little blurb from the book because I think it kind of says it better than I tried to say it earlier. But, it says, are you doing your best with others and yourself? It's time to shed any negative facades. Drop the masks behind the masks. It may feel risky, yet this profound act of self-acceptance will unleash your absolute essence. You are light, shadow, matter, and consciousness, and you are a miracle. Why then do you keep your true nature hidden away from the world? There's really no way to understand your full potential until you are open and honest with your own heart without judgment. So, I was seeing that image of you with the fake purse, like a fake Fendi, and, in March, this growth period is you kind of stepping into the real purse, the real version of you. So there's definitely been some facades or some masks or just some, illusions about yourself that you've been operating from. And you seem to be dropping those and coming into more of a full acceptance of yourself. And that does help you create different potentials in your life when you're accepting yourself and you're being real and you're, letting your heart guide you. This is coming from her heart. She's letting her heart guide her. Wow. This looks kind of a big month for you, I think. This is a big card to pull out. March is kind of big. What can I say? Ooh. All right, I'm going to pull some more cards for you. A couple more cards come out. One is sacred sexuality. Another one is nature. I do feel like you'll be healing, your feminine energy. Like your feminine energy is becoming more empowered, especially in how you create things. You're stepping into more authority with your feminine energy. And I feel that like a very beautiful authority, where maybe you used to create things from more of your masculine energy. And I see kind of like a sexual healing here where like the feminine side gets to be in her authority too, and how she helps you create things. Immediately with this nature card, felt like it's natural. I just got this feeling like, okay, you might have this tendency to want to work for your enlightenment or work for your realization or work for your awakening. And feel like you have to control that and you have to, make that happen. But this card is kind of coming out and saying like, no, it's natural. It's just like nature. Like nature is very natural. It takes care of itself on its own. Same with your awakening. It happens for you. You don't do it. You don't do the awakening. It happens for you. So yeah, if you're feeling like this pressure to figure yourself out or to, find your calling or, like you have to make it happen, you have to try hard to do that, stop, because it's natural. It's going to naturally happen where you come into this new real version of yourself, where you come into this acceptance of yourself, where you let that calling like lead you, where you let your heart lead you. That's all just very natural. You don't have to try and make that happen. And I specifically pick up the flow of this, there's like a river in this card. I just really feel that strong feminine presence where it's kind of like a river flowing. It's very flowy, it's very fluid, it's just, your creative energy starts to flow, it looks like. Very natural though. Again, you don't have to try and you don't have to figure it out and you don't have to force it to work or control this. It's this growth period, these growth periods, they are natural, they happen for you. You're not in control of them. You just have to allow through them. All right. So that is my little update for you, for those of you going through your awakening. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and like this video. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you. See you next time. Bye. Hello to those of you going through your embodied enlightenment. Welcome to this update. I was feeling a very, very different quality to your March energy update. It almost felt like you had this trance medium quality to it. And before I continue, I'll just share a little bit of information about that. Your trance mediumship is your intuitive, or I would say spiritual ability to go in and out of your body. When you go to sleep at night, you leave your body. When you die, you leave your body. When you're born, you come into your body. And throughout your day, depending on whatever energy dynamics you're in, you can leave and go in and out of your body. So I was really seeing in March that you're kind of out of your body. And, I was kind of laughing at that because, I think that in March you might tend to feel, if this is the case for you, that you might tend to feel a little disassociated. You might feel like scattered, or just like you're zoning out, or you're just sleepy all the time, or foggy, or just getting extra sleep, but I was seeing a beautiful reason for this. And it's not because something's wrong with you. It's because I see you really starting to detach from what's happening on Earth and all the chaos and all the drama and all the disruptions. And I see you kind of taking a little spiritual vacation in March and kind of, working with yourself on a new level, if you want to call it working with yourself. But, it looks like you're meeting yourself on a new level. It's kind of like if you left Earth and you were just hanging out on like an asteroid above Earth, like speaking with your wisdom and, talking to that integrated part of you. Just looks like you're, outside of the energy dynamics that are happening on Earth, and really just kind of in a beautiful stillness with yourself, and a beautiful reflection with yourself, and a beautiful conversation with yourself. And I see you coming more into your sovereignty and integrating more, I guess you could say, trans-medium energy dynamics or spiritual dynamics, energy dynamics around your sovereignty that are outside of your body. I mean, we can have energy dynamics that happen in our relationship to the physical reality in our physical body. And we can also have energy dynamics that we experience when we're outside of our physical body in, the land of spirit. So I see you kind of integrating some dynamics that happen outside of the body. And does look like you're kind of creating a buffer between you and what's happening on the planet. And I just kind of see you way out there, just kind of with yourself, with the part of you that's very integrated and beautiful and wise and, reflective, and still and quiet, and it just looks like you kind of coming into even more sovereignty in March. If you do feel yourself kind of zoning out or feeling tired, or, kind of half in your body, half out of your body, just feeling a little scattered, or kind of like you're in shock or something, that is because you're kind of out of your body, kind of, detaching from Earth and just kind of doing quite literally your own thing in your own little dimension, in your own little world outside of the body. So it doesn't look like a growth period for you. It looks like kind of a different kind of integrative experience for you, where you're, bringing more wholeness to who you are outside of the world, outside of the Earth, outside of your body, outside of, what's happening on the planet. It looks really beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and pull a card for you guys in March 2022 and see if there's any other information we have about March 2022. Woo! All right. So we get Six of Pentacles. And, couldn't tell you if it was upright or reversed. It doesn't matter because I am going to be reading the energy of the card versus going off the meaning that's in all the typical descriptions of this card. But I mean, right off the bat in this image, you can see that giving and receiving quality. There's like a figure 8 in the background. What you give, you receive. As above, so below. So whatever you're doing, outside of your body in March, looks like it will circle around and have an impact in what you can receive in, in your physical reality. So it does look like, it's interesting because you see this hand coming up from above and this hand coming up from the bottom. And it's kind of like I'm playing off that, energy dynamic that I see you in, where you're kind of like out of your body in March, kind of in the ethers or in the cosmos, or, just in your own little dimension. And it's like, this is your hand coming from, the land of spirit. And this is you in the physical receiving whatever this spiritual flow or this spiritual, gold is. Six of Pentacles is like a material card. It does talk about, things. So I do think whatever you're doing outside of your body in your own little world does transpire to real things that you can receive in the physical. I see the image of an elephant in this card, which tells me that, whatever you're doing outside of your body, you're kind of like a, if you think about the energy of an elephant, they are very big. They're very grand. They're very strong and powerful. They can charge through obstacles and nothing can stop them. They're also very wise, and they're also very gentle, even though they're big and strong. And they have this really good memory as well. So I do see that energy where you're in a very maybe gentle way, working through some blockages, some obstacles that have been preventing you from receiving in the physical. And it's going to open some things up so that you can receive. Let's pull some more cards, see what else we get. Oh, interesting. Okay, the first card is I Remember, Soul Plan, the Fated Life versus the Destiny Life. Interesting. I mean, you can see this bigger person that's looking down at the world below them. And, that's kind of what I'm seeing in the image. Like you're starting to remember something bigger than your human experience. You're starting to tap into something like the bigger version of you, maybe your soul plan, maybe what you were really here to do, what you came here to do. You're starting to remember what you're here for. It looks like it comes through lots of realizations. When you remember what you're here for, it seems like, spontaneous. Like you just start to have all these realizations about what you're here to do. That's beautiful. And then this came out together with the card. It says, Breath of the Cosmos, my will to thy will, micromanaging the universe. So yeah, in this image of you that I saw, you were away from planet Earth, like on an asteroid, talking to yourself, and I think it's like one version of you talking to like the realized version of you, the version of you that's already done it, the version of you that's, already complete, it's like you're having a very intimate conversation with yourself. And it's like, who wins? The human part of you or like the bigger part of you? Because there's this bigger part of you that had a plan, that had an intention, that had an idea of what you're here for. And that human part of you may have been playing some games or getting in the way or just holding on to blockages that kept you from receiving that plan and from going with the flow of that plan. you know. So I do see like a very gentle confrontation with yourself happening more on the astral or in the cosmos or in a different dimension, like just kind of outside your body. You know, maybe you were trying to control everything. Maybe you were trying to control your success and the way things worked out for you. And this card is reminding you that, you know, you just need to allow. It's not about controlling everything. You know, embodied enlightenment can be a little bit like a balancing act between making choices and taking action, and making things happen, because that is a part of embodied enlightenment, where you're you know, applying your consciousness and applying your wisdom and applying you know, your knowingness to the way you navigate life. And you're embodying that. It becomes very real. And, you know, we can go through phases where we forget, like, oh yeah, this is not embodiment that I'm doing. This is controlling that I'm doing. I'm controlling everything. So I do pick up that feeling where sometimes you may have a tendency to control the way your life turns out versus like allow. You know, there's that embodiment piece where you're, you know, connecting with yourself and letting your wisdom, you know, guide you, and, you know, you're letting energy serve you. And yes, there are definitely times where you need to take action and make things happen. But this is kind of like a check-in with yourself. Like, am I controlling everything? Like, am I on the right path? Am I doing what I'm here to do? Like, it's almost like you're checking in with yourself in March, like on a different level, you know, and you're remembering really what you're here to do. And you're reminded, you know, that you need to just, you know, continue to allow that. All right, beautiful. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull some cards. Aha. Okay. Blessed. So there's a little fairy that's sitting in a shell. There's little heart confetti and star confetti. There's the number 22. Blessed. Yeah. I feel like there's a tendency to feel like that bigger you that has it all planned out is outside of you. And this card, I'm like seeing that face within the shell. It's like within you. You know, so this is kind of like a card that reminds me like of like how natural it is to let yourself be guided by what you're really here for. And that it's a blessing, that you can trust it, that it's a good thing. And I kind of see someone making a Zen garden, you know, taking a rake and raking through sand and making beautiful designs in a Zen garden. And like, just because the earth is going through like a big upheaval and a big growth period, like you seem to be in your own world, you know, to where like things are actually very peaceful and very nice, and it's really just about you and what you want to do with your life. And you know, you're just kind of in that Zen space, you know, where things are still and things are calm and things are, you know, working out for you. There's no drama. You know, this is like the fruit of all that growth that you've been through. I'm going to check in with the book that comes with this card, see if there's any other messages to hear about it. Blessed. Okay, essential meanings. something wonderful that is unearned and unexpected, grace that is unforeseen gift from Spirit. There are moments in life when out of the blue it seems that everything has been orchestrated by divine intervention. You feel blessed in ways that are difficult to express. It's as if the Red Sea parts in front of you and events come together to banish your troubles easily and naturally. You know, deep down, you did not deserve any of it, yet here you are. This is one of those times. Let awe and gratitude for all your blessings guide you now. Yeah. So essentially this card is talking about unexpected blessings that are coming to you in March. And just because the planet's going through its awakening and its disruptions doesn't mean you have to. You know, you're kind of immune from that. You're kind of in your own world, receiving your own blessings at this time on the planet, not having to go through all the craziness with the planet. So this is when you can take out your popcorn and, you know, start eating your popcorn as you watch the whole globe go into its awakening experience, because it doesn't really impact you at this point. I really feel this sovereign energy from you where you're kind of in your own world, especially in March. You're very sovereign and you're still able to receive lots of blessings even though the world is going through it. All right, well, that is the energy update for you in March 2022. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps me out a lot. All right, take care. Bye.